Our first guest this week's Dr. David Cunic. He's the CEO of UCS Advisors. David, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me, Don. It's always a pleasure.
Well, David, you've always been our go-to guy for the cannabis industry, but I know there's a lot more to UCS Advisors. Why don't you tell us about that?
Sure. And thank you for having me again here today. A lot of people forget that 40% of our business here at UCS Advisors has nothing to do with cannabis. We're very much industry agnostic. And what's interesting is that we actually have something here at UCS Advisors called the Pitch Perfect Fundraising Package, which is where if you're trying to raise money for your company, whether you're publicly traded or you're a private company, you can submit your investor package to us, and we'll actually give you a written analysis about the pros and the cons to your investor pitch and tell you the reasons why an investor might pass on you. Also, Don, kind of like we're here on Zoom, we'll actually record your investor presentation to give you constructive criticism on your presentation skills. Plus, on top of that, too, we still work with a lot of CEOs, COOs, and other board of directors as advisors and advising how to grow their company, how to deal with investors, but we do it by the hour. So we're very cost effective instead of paying these big, huge upfront fees. And last but not least, we're very proud. We work with people both domestically and also in 8 other countries, and we help find them unique deals that they may not always get access to. So we really have some great diversification here at UCS Advisors.
David, what would you say are the most common mistakes you see in pitch decks that are presented to you?
The most common mistake is not having a clear vision for the investor's return on investment. They'll say, oh, we're going to give you equity. Then the next question is, do I get a dividend over time? How long is it till I get any money back? Is this purely an acquisition play? That is the number one most common mistake. And the second most common mistake is when you're going out to investors, it's like fishing. Know the type of pond or lake or ocean you're fishing in, because that makes a huge difference overall on how you're going to give your presentation.
And conversely, what are investors looking for most often these days?
So investors most often are looking for these days is one, a quality management team that has some experience or a quality advisory board. The second is, what is the company's 3 and 5 year goals? What's the projection of the company? How is it going to keep going up? And the third thing is really, what is the investor's return on investment or potential return on investment?
Without having to name a company that you've worked with, what would you say are the best success stories you've seen?
Well, actually, we just had a recent success story. Someone just did our 3-month package here at UCS Advisors, where we taught them how to do their deck, taught them how to present properly, and taught them how to actually talk to investors properly. They went 7 months, couldn't raise $1. And in less than 90 days, they actually were able to secure about $5.2 million from investors. It was tough loving that they got, but they followed our program, and the results are now they're fully funded, which is great.
Of course, you're a former public company CEO, so you've seen this game being played from both sides of the fence, so to speak.
We do, and with the publicly traded companies we work with, the biggest mistake we see them make is not updating their shareholders with enough press releases. What we find is really ironic is a publicly traded company will give a huge press release from 6 months ago and never give the shareholders an update on that news again. So if you had an acquisition or you had some increase in sales that occurred 2 quarters ago, give your shareholders an update on it. Communicate with your shareholders because they want to know what's going on with your company.
You're absolutely right. We talk to a lot of small companies here at MoneyTV, and we see companies that we do the research and haven't had a press release in like 9 months to a year.
And for public companies, people say, well, if the company's not doing well, why are so many investors still trading the stock? Because they're communicating with their shareholders. They're consistently giving out press releases. Even if it's just one press release a month, that's okay. Shareholders are happy about that.
What's the best advice you can give to a company trying to raise money?
Our number one green nugget of information we tell everyone here is failure to plan is planning to fail. Do not, I repeat, do not go out and try to raise any money until you have your investor package completely done. until you have your data room completely done. Because what happens is you'll have an investor say, hey, Don, I'm interested in investing. Send me over the information. And then you have to say, well, I'm not fully prepared yet. So if you're not fully prepared, how can you go out and ask for money?
Company's UCS Advisors, Dr. David Cunic. David, sound advice. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me here today, Don.